Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and once again it's time for the Q&A, so let's go ahead and get this started. All right, first question. Hey Jason, I find when I do good mornings with a high bar position, it is more difficult to keep my chest up, and my lower back will round as a result. However, when I do good mornings with a low bar on my traps, in a low bar position, I can keep my chest up and back straight. Why does this happen, and should I just stick with the low bar position from here on out? Well, the high bar has a longer moment arm. So yeah, it is putting more stress on actually your upper back a little bit more. And if your upper back is weak and it's caving, guess what? Your lower back's going to follow. It's also indicative of a weak lower back. So what this tells us in general, though, is that your erectors in general are weak. You need to really, really work on them. You need to work on them a lot. Now, in the meantime, if you can't make the high bar work, just go ahead and do them low bar. But keep in mind, there could be some upper back weakness there to think about. You're someone who might benefit from getting access to a safety squat bar, right? A safety squat bar might be of value to you here. Or you might even want to consider trying to do some high bar and just reduce the weight so that you can keep your back in extension, keep your upper back in extension, and keep that chest up. Because again, this is clearly a weak link for you. Clearly a weak link for you because you're struggling with it as soon as that moment arm gets longer. And you might be finding that it's when you're using the same weight. So then when you go over to the low bar position, the moment arm is slightly shorter. So the same weight is technically easier. And it could be a case of that. So you can experiment around with it. But again, we know this area is weak. And if you need to do the low bar, that's fine. Just push it harder because it should be slightly easier and focus on doing that. But yeah, it sounds like in general there's definitely some T-spine weakness happening there. So your thoracic erectors are possibly really, really limiting you. So again, train them hard. All right, next question. Yo, coach, my Pendlay Row tends to be stronger than my bench. I'm using 60% of my bench max for my Pendlay and found it too light, so I ramped it up to 70%. I'm doing 3x10 on both. My third set on the bench is at 0 reps in reserve, while probably 2 reps in reserve on Pendlay strict. Is this fine, or is my bench just weak? No, bench is fine. This isn't a bad situation to be in. Realistically, I've said in the past, you might have missed it, who knows how many videos ago or what months I even said it, I like to see my lifters get their Pendlay row caught up to their bench. Right? I like to see their Pendlay row caught up to their bench. Being slightly stronger on rows is not a bad thing. Okay, it's not a bad thing at all. Now, if you're cheating at all, you better be stronger than your bench. If it's strict, I like to see that. So you're in a situation where that's good. It's better than being the reverse. Now, some people would say, well, I'd rather my bench be strong. Okay, well, there's nothing wrong with wanting a strong bench. But if we're talking about muscle balance, we're talking about support musculature, we're talking about, again, maintaining shoulder health and everything else, I'd like to see that Pendlay row be just as strong as the bench, if not slightly stronger. So it sounds like in your case, you're slightly stronger. Okay, again, that's not a bad thing. It's a good situation to be in. Keep pushing it. Keep pushing the Pendlay row. See if you can get it even stronger. It's just going to help you be more stable on your bench. Going to give you better joint stability. Again, this is not a bad thing. And in the meantime, if you feel like your bench is too weak, well, keep training your bench. Push your bench up. Get better at it. Train your weak points more. But it's kind of funny. You're worried about something that really isn't a problem. I would rather see this than the reverse. Okay, from a muscle balance perspective, I would rather your Pendlay be slightly stronger than your bench be stronger than your Pendlay. Okay, because we see a lot of gym bros who don't train their back enough who can bench way more than they can row. It's common, right? In the long term, a lot of those guys end up with shoulder injuries and stuff. It's not ideal from a joint stability perspective, right? That's imbalanced. And in this case, what is it I always say? If we're going to be imbalanced, I would much rather see it on the posterior side be stronger than the anterior. So in other words, the back half of your body should be stronger than the front if you had to have it in balance any direction, at least from a performance perspective and injury prevention perspective. But that's just my opinion. Keep that in mind. All right, next question. Have you noticed any trends of basal metabolic rate lowering significantly when middle-aged clients go on an aggressive diet. I've been doing cuts probably once a year for the past 6 years and can expect my body to react similarly every time. I've been in a 1.5 deficit per week for the last 5 weeks and I'm not consistently losing. Common sense dictates I'm not accurately counting calories, but I can assure you I weigh everything and I eat out to the gram. Has my BMR been severely reduced from years of dieting, therefore leaving me not in a deficit the size I believe it is? No, it's not your BMR. The only thing you're going to usually see BMR is going to be due to muscle loss, right? Weight loss in general, including fat loss, reduces BMR, muscle loss the most. So if you've lost muscle, your BMR is going to go down. But basal metabolic rate isn't really that important, right? So if your basal metabolic rate gets really severely hit and you lose 200 calories off of it, that's not going to be enough to notice that much on your weight loss. What's happening is that you're seeing changes in your NEAT, seeing changes in adaptive thermogenesis. You're running large deficits and you're probably getting more fatigued. And in middle-aged lifters, we don't lose energy turnover due to our age unless it's muscle related, or then we get lazier and tired, because we do fatigue in some ways easier. We do have to work a little harder to stay in shape, right? We do have to. And by in shape, I mean our conditioning and stuff. So what's happening is that you're running probably too big of deficits and your NEAT is going down, which is your non-exercise activity thermogenesis. And then because if you're maybe running your carbohydrates too low, right? You're running carbohydrates too low, what's happening? Some of your adaptive thermogenesis is going down also. So that's a lot of what's happening. It's changes on these other factors. So maybe don't run your deficits so big. Maybe don't run your deficits so big, right? But if you're not losing weight, there's only two possible things that are happening. Either you're not in a deficit or you are holding water temporarily. And that's what happens a lot of times. People run too big of a deficit, cortisol and stuff go up too much. They retain water. And then all of a sudden when they add in a little bit of calories, they whoosh and they drop 4 pounds of water weight overnight. And then they think, oh, it's because I added calories. And no, it was just water weight. And adding the carbs in reduced cortisol slightly. And you dropped the extra water. So, without a lot of details of you saying, hey, I am eating this many calories, this is what I weigh, this is what happened over the last few weeks and I'm stuck, we don't know. But if you're sure you're in a deficit, the scale's going to come down. It's a matter of a waiting game. But again, keeping in mind, you might be dropping too quick with aggressive, because you mentioned aggressive cuts. And you dropped a lot of tissue weight early and water early, and then your body is holding on to water to compensate due to the elevated stress hormones. And it's just water retention that will eventually come off. But again, the question I would ask is, why are you running such aggressive deficits? Hopefully you're being careful with it. If you're running large deficits, you know what you're doing. Your diet's dialed in perfect. Hopefully there's a little bit of hormonal assistance there, right? Especially you being middle-aged. If there's not, you need to consider that, look into that. Just putting that out there. So stuff you need to think about. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.